On summer nights, Crescent Avenue sang in 3 languages at once. The panaderia windows fogged with sugar and heat. Somewhere above the laundromat, a teenager practiced scales on a trumpet. The bodega bell chimed like a small bright clock. If you leaned on the rail of a second-floor fire escape, you could smell guava pastries cooling, garlic on a hot pan, and rain that wasn't here yet but had texted to say it was coming. That was the night Lena Marquez stepped out onto her family's fire escape to breathe, and Jules Park looked up from the sidewalk, one hand on a brown paper bag, the other on his bike. "Hey," he said, like a question with a smile attached. "Hey," she answered, one foot hooked under the lowest rung like an anchor. He lifted the bag. "Emergency seltzers for my mom. She says the heat makes the air push back." "Your mom's right," Lena said. She glanced down at her own hands, dusted with flour. "We're up to our ears in pineapple empanadas. Wedding season. Every aunt in the borough is marrying someone off." "Every aunt?" Jules laughed. "That's a lot of veils. Tell me about it." It should have ended there, neighbors being neighborly. But the city had its own opinions about timing. The bodega on the corner, Park's Corner Market, had put up a "Coming Soon" sign in its side window. Park and Sons Development, Community Live/Work Loft Conversion. The panaderia across from it, La Estrella, had a hand-lettered poster in the door. "No luxury lofts. We're already living here." If you asked Lena's mother about Park and Sons, you'd get a history of broken promises in 3 paragraphs flat. If you asked Jules's father about small businesses, you'd get a lecture about margins and midnight deliveries, and all the days he spent carrying a neighborhood on his back. If you asked either of them about each other, you'd get the same answer in different accents: trouble. But city air, on certain evenings, plays matchmaker better than algorithms. "I'm Jules," he said. "Lena," she said. "From La Estrella." He nodded up at the neon star in the bakery window. "From the place where I spend my allowance and then my rent. From the place your dad says will block the loading dock with a line of quinceañera cakes," she teased. "He says a lot of things," Jules said, and his smile gentled, like a secret he wasn't quite ready to trust the night with. Down the block, 2 voices rose, one bright and fast, one hot and sharp. Mikey, who sold phone cases and optimism, had found Tito, Lena's cousin, at the bus stop. Tito had a talent for turning a point into a spear. The topic, lofts, permits, the future, deflated into noise that made passers-by speed up, shoulders tight. "Should I?" Jules pointed, unsure. "Give it 2 minutes," Lena said. "Tito burns quick and then he's fine." She rolled her eyes. "My mother says he fights like it's a sport with scholarships." A light flickered in a second-floor window across the street. Miss Fry, who ran the community center and had a voice like the end of a long day, leaned out and whistled the way other people ring bells. "Save it for the council meeting," she said. Tito and Mikey muttered, looked at their shoes, and dispersed. "See?" Lena said, half proud, half resigned. "Neighborhood choir. Everyone knows everyone's parts." Jules shifted the bag of seltzers. "Do you ever get out?" Lena snorted. "I get out to the sidewalk, to the trash room, to the walk-in freezer." "Dream big, right?" "Come to the midnight movie," he said, suddenly. "Rooftop." Miss Fry beams an old black and white on the brick behind the center. "It's not luxury. It's folding chairs and someone's uncle's projector. I can save you a seat." "Is this a date?" she asked, amused. "It's a seat," he said, and for a second he looked so earnest she wanted to hand him half of everything, half the tray of empanadas, half the night, half a future. She looked back through the kitchen window, where her mother's silhouette moved with the grace of someone who built a life one loaf at a time. She looked down at Jules, whose hair curled over his forehead like it had tried to be neat and then changed its mind. "Okay," she said. "A seat. You could measure that summer by the movies." One week it was a caper with hats. The next, a story so tender the audience clapped at the end like applause might make it less fragile. Lena and Jules sat in the 3rd row, shared warm cans of lemon soda, counted the planes that crossed the screen and then the sky. On the ground, the grown-ups arranged themselves in positions they mistook for safety. Lena's mother, Alma, took photos of every cake that left the shop. "Proof," she said. "In case someone says sugar is a luxury we can't afford." Jules's father, Daniel, kept a ledger and an extra ledger behind it that counted favors and grudges in equal measure. They didn't notice their children noticing each other until the council hearing. The gym smelled like varnish and civic duty. A banner read, "We hear you," and everyone in folding chairs acted like maybe this time that was true. The microphone passed from hand to hand and turned good people into opera. Jules had signed up to speak, jacket too stiff on his shoulders. He made a case for renovated apartments with rent protections and loading access that kept small shops alive. He said he didn't want fancy, he wanted safe. He said he had watched his father sleep in the storage room to keep shelves stocked during storms. Alma stood, smoothed her skirt, and laid out the counts. How many customers asked for credit in December and paid in March? How many boxes of flour vanished when a delivery truck got rerouted? How many bakeries don't survive good intentions? Someone clapped at the wrong time. Someone hissed. Tito rolled his shoulders like a thunderhead. Miss Fry lifted a hand and weather calmed. Then Mikey saw something he shouldn't have. Jules and Lena side by side, bent over the same notes. His eyebrows flew to his hairline. He looked at Tito. Tito's eyes narrowed, not at the notes, but at the way their heads leaned, almost touching. "You're kidding me," Tito said, too loud for a whisper, too quiet for a fight. After the hearing, the neighborhood divided itself down the middle of the sidewalk like a river that had decided to be two things at once. Alma gathered Lena's hand in hers. Daniel called Jules over with his chin. On the corner, Ms. Fry blew on her tea and said to no one, "Well, we're going to earn our diplomas tonight." That evening, on the fire escape, Lena's phone buzzed with texts that clanged. "I saw you from Tito. We should talk from Parrish Chin." Yes, that Parrish, the pleasant venture guy with a portfolio of ethical urbanism and a smile that tasted like paper. He'd taken an interest in La Estrella as a heritage brand. He'd also once tried to buy a piece of it with contracts that said consulting and meant control. Lena typed a 3-word reply and then deleted every version of it. No, no thanks, not ever, because politeness had been embroidered into her from birth. The screen lit again with Jules. "Hey, okay. Define okay," she wrote. "Want to sneak out?" Miss Fry still has folding chairs to stack. She looked through the kitchen window. Alma counted receipts, each paper a small story about sunrise and effort. "I can close," Alma said without looking up. "If you want to, what do you kids say? Take a lap." Lena kissed her mother's hair. Back in 20. They met in the alley that smelled like last week's rain and eternity. Jules lifted a chair without being asked. Lena rolled the cart through the door. Miss Fry was already there, sleeves pushed up, the kind of woman who could break a fight with eye contact and then teach a 7-year-old to untangle a jump rope. "You too," she said mildly, "have the timing of people who don't know they're in a play." "We know," Jules said. "We just don't like it." "Good," Miss Fry said. "People who like it get dramatic. People who don't like it get solutions." They stacked chairs in polite towers. They swept. "In the golden hush that settles on community centers at night," Jules said, "I want to be with you and not set the block on fire." "That's a tall order," Lena said. "I'm tall." She laughed, and the sound jumped up to the rafters like it had been waiting there for years. Miss Fry leaned on a broom. "I officiate half the block's milestones. Baby showers and kickball truces and all the in-between. If you want my advice, tell the truth early. Secrets and pride are siblings and both grow teeth." Lena nodded. "My mother will say I'm choosing a boy over a business." "Then show her you're choosing a future where both breathe," Miss Fry said. "Bring me a plan, not a poem." They brought a plan. It had bullet points and sketches and a budget. It was simple. The parks would move their loading zone to the alley that no one used because of a pothole you could lose a small dog in. La Estrella would share early morning access to their walk-in fridge for deliveries that needed cold transit. In exchange, Park and Sons would sign, publicly, that any loft conversions would keep rent-stabilized tenants and set aside a slice of space for a co-op kitchen for home bakers to go legit. Lena added a line for a neighborhood scholarship in Ms. Frey's name because she understood politics even if she hated it. "Who are you two?" Ms. Frey said, blinking. "Did you time travel from a future where the adults finally learned to listen?" "We read your handouts," Jules said. "We also like each other," Lena added. "In case that matters." It matters, Ms. Fry said, and her voice went soft around the edges. They arranged a Saturday meeting. They asked Alma and Daniel to bring coffee and their best stouts. They asked Parrish to bring his checkbook and his appetite. They asked Tito and Mikey to bring their inside voices. They asked the whole block to bring a willingness not to be the main character. The plan could have worked. It might have. But Pride, which had been doing push-ups, wanted a turn on the floor. On Friday night, Tito cornered Jules outside the bodega. "You think you can buy my cousin with your father's blueprint?" he said. "No," Jules said. "I think we can help each other not drown." "You're not family," Tito said. Jules kept his voice even. "I could be." That was a match near dry leaves. Words spilled. Mikey tried to joke it away and got caught in the middle. Someone bumped someone's shoulder too hard. A plastic bin of oranges went rolling, bright planets scattering, and two boys who had never thrown a punch in their lives tried to be brave. It ended in bruised pride and a sprained wrist and a picture someone took at a bad angle that made it look worse. By dawn, the group chat had declared it a war. Alma told Lena she was grounded, and when Lena said she was nearly 20, Alma said, "Then you will have the decency to be grounded with dignity." Daniel told Jules he was disappointed, which is worse than angry if your father is a man who measures love in all the meals he forgot to eat. Parrish sent Lena a message. "This community plan might be simpler if you weren't part of it. Consider stepping back. Your family needs a win. I can help." The words were neat as napkins. They made Lena feel like a fork at the wrong table. Saturday morning, a storm showed up uninvited. The sky put its hand on the burrow and pressed down. The lights flickered, apologized, and went out. The neighborhood did what it always did, checked on elders, found flashlights that only worked if you shook them, put pots under known leaks. The meeting was postponed because nobody wanted to argue in the dark. Lena lit candles in the bakery and thought about recipes that made sense without machines. She kneaded panic into dough until the panic remembered it was just water and flour and salt. Then she put on her jacket, told her mother she was delivering bread to the center, and stepped into the rain. At the community center, Ms. Fry had turned into a lighthouse keeper, handing out batteries, telling stories into the dim like they were lanterns. Children gathered around her with the awe they save for people who know how to make night behave. Lena put the bread on a folding table, wiped rain from her eyelashes, and turned to find Jules at the door, soaked, hair pasted to his forehead, holding a box of lukewarm seltzers like a talisman. "Hey," he said, and the word warmed the room. "Hey," she said, and the candlelight put gold in her eyes. They didn't run to each other. They walked. It was a small thing, a choice to move like people who mean what they're doing. When they met in the middle of the basketball key, the room didn't cheer. It exhaled. "I'm sorry," Jules said. "About the fight. About the picture. About everything I don't yet know to be sorry about." "I'm sorry," Lena said. "For not telling my mother sooner. For thinking we could do this in secret, like we're kids in a story." "We're not." "We're not," he agreed. "We're the part after the story where people have to clean up and make it livable." "Do you still want the plan?" she asked, a hand's width away from him. "I want the plan," he said. "And I want the part where we eat breakfast in your kitchen and your mother tells me I'm slicing the guava wrong." "She will," Lena said and smiled. "She always does." By the time the lights came back, half the neighborhood had seen them standing there, not holding hands, and felt something shift underfoot. Word travels differently when the power's out. It rides breath and rumor and the proof of 1,000 small moments you can't screen record. On Sunday, the meeting happened. Alma came in with her chin high and flower on her sleeve like a badge. Daniel came with 2 coffees and the ledger of a man prepared to admit only what he'd already forgiven. Tito came with his wrist wrapped and his teeth unclenched. Mikey came with a bag of apples in case oranges tempted fate. Parrish arrived in a raincoat that cost a month of anyone else's rent and a smile you could hang a campaign sign on. He started talking before anyone else sat down, about partnerships, about the brand of the block, about a pilot program he could call. He actually said this: Star and Park. On the page, it looked like help. In the air, it tasted like ownership with better lighting. Lena surprised herself. "No," she said gently. Parrish blinked. "No to what?" No to the version where you buy my mother's recipes and lease them back to her, Lena said. No to calling charity the same thing as strategy. No to press releases that think they're plans. Jules set his folder on the table. We have a simpler version, he said. It involves moving a loading zone, paving a pothole, and writing promises your lawyers will hate because they'll have to keep them. He slid the papers across. For a second, the room was just the sound of paper. Hush, 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 like the ocean before it decides to be a wave. Daniel, read first. He swallowed. Alma, read next. Her mouth did a complicated dance of relief and reluctance. Miss Fry read with her glasses low and her expectation high. Tito hovered and pretended not to. Who wrote this? Alma asked. We did, Lena said. With Ms. Frey's edits. It protects our tenants, Daniel said, slow, like a man testing a floorboard. It protects your mornings, he added to Alma. He looked at Jules. It makes me spend money on asphalt. It makes me share my fridge, Alma replied. They both looked at their children. Why, Alma asked softly, do you trust him? Because he returns seltzer cans for the deposit and slips the cash into the tip jar, Lena said. Why, Daniel asked, do you trust her? Because she's the only person who ever told me my father's stubbornness is a gift when we use it on the right problem, Jules said. Miss Fry cleared her throat and the gym remembered it was a church sometimes. Put the pen on the table, she said. They did. Alma signed with a hand that had learned to make signatures mean something. Daniel signed like a man who'd been waiting for someone to ask him to be brave in a way that didn't involve lifting. Parrish stood with dignity and a smile that did not crack and said he had another meeting. He shook hands with his right and tucked his disappointment into his left pocket and left. Later, he would donate to the scholarship and put his name nowhere. He was good at recognizing when a story did not belong to him. The neighborhood found out the way neighborhoods always do, one ant at a time. There was a block party without permits, but with permission. Tito and Mikey ran the grill and didn't burn a thing. Miss Fry danced with anyone who could count to 4. Someone painted the pothole before the asphalt truck arrived, a circle of blue with a tiny white star in the middle. Make a wish, a kid wrote in chalk. Make a plan, someone else added. Lena and Jules sat on the bakery steps, paper plates balanced on their knees. Alma brought them a slice of cake that tasted like an apology and a beginning. Daniel refilled their seltzers and pretended to inspect the new loading schedule while not looking at how his son's hand rested, easy on Lena's. They did not declare this a marriage. They did not run to a courthouse. They did not deem themselves tragic or special. They promised what they could promise: breakfast, bandwidth, better forms, honesty before pride, holding one another's names like glass, useful, fragile, worth washing by hand. Much later, when the heat finally broke and the city sighed, they carried folding chairs back into the center. Miss Fry, broom in hand, watched them go. You two, she said, are proof that a happy ending is just a well-kept middle. What about the balcony? Jules asked, grinning. Lena looked up at the fire escape. It's there if we need it, she said. But I think the door is better. He laughed, and the laugh traveled up the brick and down the block, and the night decided to be kind. And if the city ever forgot how to be human, there were documents now, promises filed and co-signed and witnessed under a banner that read, "We hear you." There were also, tucked into a folder in Ms. Frey's office, a paper napkin with 2 names written on it and a note: bring bread, bring seltzer, bring patience. They did. And the neighborhood learned the only lesson that sticks: names matter less than how you say them, and futures are built where truth stands next to tenderness, without flinching.